fentanyl and methamphetamines correlated positively with overdose deaths. And the treatment centers are trying to get as many days as possible because that's how they get paid. Hey everybody, it's Dr. B, Dr. B Addiction Recovery. Welcome back to the channel. Let's get started. The topic I want to discuss today is, at a different angle, emerging patterns in substance abuse, fentanyl, overdose deaths, and general chaos. Look, 50 years ago, 40 years ago, 30 years ago, the average heroin user and methamphetamine users were actually, in a cultural sense, completely different individuals that didn't cross lives, intermingle, or mix. They listened to different music. They were into different things. The very subcultural nuances that they practiced were completely different. It's a completely different story today, and it wouldn't even make sense. And it really points to the chaos that we are living in today. This discussion today was kind of spawned by a recent study published in JAMA, Journal of American Medical Association, in June. Really elegant, well-designed study that took a cross-sectional look at urine drug tests from treatment centers from 2013 to 2020. Okay, cross-sectional study. And in fact, if you want to know more about the urine drug testing part, I just recently made a video. Click above. You will see that video and get some more insight into this very particular topic. But they looked at it, and they looked at 5 classes of drugs, okay? Cocaine, heroin, synthetic opiates, meaning fentanyl, other opiates, okay? That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think I said heroin. Cocaine, heroin, synthetic opiates, other opiates, and methamphetamines. Sorry. They looked at those, and they looked at rate of positivity, how often they were positive. At the same time, they looked at data from a different data set and evaluated the increasing rate of overdose deaths, which in 2020 was over 100,000, well into the opiate epidemic, well into extensive local, state, and federal public health efforts in education and mitigation of issues were already in place, yet we still hit over 100,000. What they noticed is that the increasing positivity rate of, in particular and most strikingly, of fentanyl and methamphetamines correlated positively with overdose deaths, okay? They all went up together. Now, cross-sectional study correlation, what does that mean? Correlation is not causation, okay? 2 independent variables can either have positive correlation, negative correlation, or opposite correlation, right? They're positive correlation in this case. They are moving in the same direction over time. It does not mean causation. Without getting into details, limitations of the study, and so forth, let's pause, ask, okay, great, you already knew about fentanyls. The fentanyl issue is interesting in and of itself, and I might find some other time to start digging into that. By the way, fentanyl should be referred to as the fentanyls. Fentanyl is one such fentanyl. There are many fentanyl analogs, okay, probably over 13, 14, 15 of them, and these are really, really a big problem. We'll dig into that and just simply at this point think of it as increasing rate of positive fentanyl and methamphetamine in urine drug tests from treatment centers correlated in a positive way, meaning moved in the same direction more and more with the increasing rate of overdose deaths from 2013 to 2020. They had a bunch of reasons for doing this study because they said, well, this opens up the discussion in future directions and discussions about guiding treatment, making patients aware of what's in the urines, and also surveillance at a public health and policy level. Agreed to a great extent. Here's the problem. We've been having these sorts of discussions over the last 7, 8, 9, 10 years, and the overdose deaths are still increasing. I'm going to argue that the way things are set up from the fundamental structure of treatment, including the payments and insurance companies, in addition to provider training in approaching substance abuse, is not equipped to deal with the presentation of substance abuse as it is today. Okay? Let me explain. Someone comes into a treatment center or goes to see a doctor. Let's start with detoxes or treatment centers in that way. The way detox and payment is set up is, the provider or the treatment center is trying to gain as many days as they can for detox, which that itself is a completely different discussion because that's a bogus term and it implies a lot of bogus characteristics to the treatment and a person who's suffering from substance abuse disorder. But the way these things are set up is, okay, 4 days for heroin detox, okay, or opiate detox. I'm going to try to make a argument and get extended days approved by the insurance company, and it's basically this cat and mouse game where the insurance companies don't want to pay and the treatment centers are trying to get as many days as possible because that's how they get paid. Nothing wrong in that, except it's just really weird, right? And it doesn't make sense with someone coming in that's using methamphetamines, using opiates, using fentanyl, and pretty soon you're going to see more and more and more and more of fentanyl analogs, which are just super deadly. People are taking down benzos. People are taking down a lot of new psychoactive drugs that are not even showing up on the urines, including some of the new psychoactive substances that fall under cathinones, okay? People are taking a lot of things in. What are you doing in those first 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 days of treatment and then sending them down to a step down level, whether it's partial hospitalization or IOP, okay? What have you addressed in those few days? How would you even go about addressing it in a few days, right? Very brief touching on that issue. But I'm also going to argue that providers are not equipped to deal with it, okay? They're equipped to deal, or to a certain extent, their training or their own education, edification, and their approach to the substance abuse patient. Someone comes in, am I treating you for heroin? Am I treating you for methamphetamines? Am I treating you for benzos? I would often argue, I'd probably argue that the treatments or protocols are probably off anyway. That's my own personal bias, maybe my own narcissism, I don't know. But that's not who the substance abuse patient or client is anymore, okay? They are not a straight opiate addict. They're not a straight heroin, fentanyl, or whatever it is in that opiate. They're not a straight methamphetamine addict. It's much more complex than that, and this is why getting to the roots of substance abuse is extremely critical, and the amount of time that you need is much longer than a few days at this facility than going to another facility for a step down, and on and on and on. You need one set of providers, okay, so you can build professional rapport with, okay, and that treatment needs to continue indefinitely. You can have some idea of the time, but you get graded and stepped down. Even more important than all of this is one other thing. I think most practitioners may not even really, I don't know if I want to use the term don't know how, or not comfortable with, or have a algorithmic approach to dealing with somebody that comes in. Let's say they're taking 6 milligrams of Xanax and it's pressed, then they're got the fentanyl. The guy also uses a little bit of kratom, and he also says, I do meth 2 or 3 times a week, and then maybe I goofball it, mixing it all together, okay? I'm not sure if the average practitioner is absolutely equipped with that. And the way it should be approached is you immediately take that patient and you really do quotients, risk-benefit analysis. What's going to kill him the fastest, and at the same time, what do I have in my arsenal of pharmaceuticals to address each and every one of those? And you take those two, throw it in sort of the magic hat, mix it up, and come up with an algorithm of what you're going to approach first, second, third, and long run. This all creates chaos and havoc, limited resources, insurance companies not set up to provide the treatment centers with the days that they need, the treatment centers not set up or understand or have the tools necessarily, not always, some may, to approach this in an algorithmic fashion. They don't even get enough days to do that. And this creates a vacuum for disaster, a recipe for disaster, and this is how people end up going back to treatment over and over and over again, with skyrocketing overdose deaths. Substance abuse patients should, number one, from a clinical pharmacological level, be dealt with exactly as I said. You need to take all of the substance they're abusing and have an algorithm after you do a risk-benefit quotient analysis of what can I treat with my arsenal and what is the most dangerous drug he's on. And then after that, you need to really spend time treating it as a chronic issue with the same group of providers or provider or the same team, so you can build professional rapport, trust, bond, security for that patient who has spent a long time abusing and being abused, mistrusting, lying, and cheating. They need to be explained how and why you're going to use the urine drug testing and which ones you're going to use with minimal impact on the system, and proceed with this new emerging complex substance abuse patient. By the way, it's not so new. I've been talking about it for years, but this status kind of slightly is starting to dribble out, and we're redefining the landscape of the substance abuse patient, and these are the emerging patterns. In future videos, I'll get into more specifics about the different kinds of, for example, fentanyl analogs out there. I've done quite a bit on cathinones and the synthetic new psychoactive substances, but I'll keep doing these as time goes on. Thank you very much. I hope this generates a discussion. If you disagree with me, write something below. If you agree with me, write something below. Give me a like and subscribe and a thumbs up, whether you like it or not, because I like that. And consider supporting us on Patreon. Have a great night.